So what are we doing is that if you want to help out and give a gift to a kid that really wants a Christmas gift this year, all you do is you pick one of the cards and then you get the present and then bring it back. There's a beautiful box by the tree and you put it there. And it's just really nice to do. It's Christmas. I love giving. So yeah, if you guys are willing to help, there's only like 25 left. So staff members, students, anyone, you can participate.
Any person. Okay, and then I'm too loud, man. Okay. And then the other announcement is we are doing kids service here next Sabbath, this upcoming Sabbath, I mean. And we're just looking for any other help we can get. It's not anything like crazy you're committing to. Just if you could be here, come talk to Danelli or I. You could just help with arranging the kids, getting them organized, and getting the program done because the kids are leading out the Sabbath. It's going to be really fun. I'm really excited about it. But we can use any help we can get. So if you're able to come, just talk to one of us.
Awesome. Thank you. So, Daisy, man, we're back from break.
Yeah.
Yes? Oh, you know what? This is the last announcement because we got to have announcements ahead of time.
If you're a class officer, can you just stay after chapel real quick so we can get a couple pictures for yearbook? Thank you.
All right. Awesome. Thank you. Okay. So we're back from break. How many of you had a great break? Let's just see a little, even if it was just to sleep in, change of pace. Yeah? Okay. All right. Maybe not sleeping in. But Daisy, tell us a little bit about why we're here today. What are we celebrating?
Can anyone guess what culture we're celebrating today? Okay. Well, we're celebrating Native American Heritage Month, and we have some special speakers and guests. So, yeah, I want to welcome them. Also, Campus Ministries. Project Unity is doing this thing that it's like it's either going to be at the end of the year or at the end of the semester. We're going to send out like a survey kind of quiz. And it's just going to be about our previous chapels and our upcoming ones, like cultural chapels. And they're just going to be questions, and whoever gets them correct or gets the highest score is going to get a prize. So hopefully you guys are like paying attention because there's going to be some kind of like difficult questions, you know?
Awesome. So pay attention, basically, right? So before we actually officially start, it is such an honor and a privilege to be able to have our own community brothers and sisters here with us today, not only from your own school community, but also from the Mukulshu community. And I just want to acknowledge that this is, since I've been here, the first time I think we have been able to have the start of this relationship in the school building at a level like this. And I really look forward to hopefully continuing that. And so, welcome. We're so glad that you're here. I've only been here for a few years, and we are literally neighbors and dwelling on this land, this sacred land. And it is that we want to continue to acknowledge the fact that we weren't here first, right? We as Auburn Adventist Academy. But we are here to learn more, and we look forward to the continued knowledge and growth in understanding what this land, this sacred space that many of us call home, of what home it really is, even before we were ever here. And so in the spirit of that, we just want to remind all of us to hold this space. Just take a minute, take a deep breath in, and hold this space, not only the space, the building that we're in, but this ground, this earth, this air, in the respect that it deserves. Daisy, go ahead and give us our introduction.
So I want to call up Amaya and Kira.
Woohoo!
So, hey guys, in case you didn't know, I'm Amaya Pedro, and a lot of you probably didn't know that I'm a Mukulshu tribal member from the Corville Daniels family. Everyone here is taking a lot of time putting this event together, and we're all excited to have this opportunity to share some information in our tribes and culture with you all. So I hope you're all excited, and if you're not, you gotta get with it. Anyways, the outfit I have on today, this is a ribbon skirt, and I have French braids. We wear this stuff for mostly special occasions, but sometimes we do it just because. While working on this project, I realized that many people don't know that we're on native land, specifically Mukulshu land, if you're here. So much history has taken place here, like for example, my Uncle Mitch works in archaeology and he let me borrow arrowheads, which are right down there, so you can take a look after chapel. And these were found right by the White River Amphitheater, which is just up the road towards Enumclaw, but my uncle says they find them everywhere. Tell us about your tribe.
Hi guys, I'm Kira, and I'm Alaskan Native. I'm Yupik and Aleut, and that's what I'll be talking about today. I'm wearing, I'm wearing this outfit. It's a traditional outfit for Alaskan Natives. It's called a kuspuk, and I'll talk more about that in the slides as well.
Mukulshu is a Coast Salish tribe, so you've probably heard of other coastal tribes like the Puyallup, Tulalip. You've been to Tacoma. You've definitely heard of Seattle, which is actually named after Duwamish Native American chief. My great-grandpa would always tell us that Mukulshutes hunted, fished, and traveled the lands from Mount Rainier to Seattle and beyond. Today, our tribe is working hard to secure property we once owned and to support tribal members in whatever they pursue in spite of the many obstacles we've worked extremely hard to overcome as a people. Mukulshu has expanded its endeavors that include many business ventures and partnerships like with the Seattle Kraken and the Seattle Seahawks. Okay, and I bet a lot of you were wondering about the display case in the ad building, right? Okay, well, I put that together with my parents who are sitting in the front row right there. We went around, thank you. We went around to all my family's homes, basically, and just took their most precious belongings to put them in a display case at my school. They're all pretty willing, but under the condition that I bring everything back. So I'm gonna do that. This case includes many things like eagle feathers, cedar items such as roses, graduation caps, and hats, beaded items such as moccasins, bags, earrings, student art, and baskets. And I'm not sure if you noticed, but there's a picture of a woman in there on the right side, and that's my great-grandma Sophie. She weaved and made a lot of the baskets and other items in there. And that's all I have to say for today. So thank you for listening. Take it away.
Hi guys, again. I'll just be talking about my culture. As I said, I'm Alaskan Native. I'm Yupik and Aleut. I want to explain more about Alaska and the different tribes that are there, because I know a lot of people just think that Native is one thing, or they just don't know a lot of things about Native people specifically. In Alaska, there is 20 distinct nations and 230 recognized tribes. And if you can see in the corner, purplish, bluish area, that's the region that I'm from. And the green at the tip is also part of where I'm from. I'm 1/2 Aleut and a quarter Yupik, so obviously I'm 3/4 Native if you do the math. And as I said before, the region that I'm from was Yupik, but I'm more Aleut than I am Yupik. So because I lived in the Yupik region and area, I learned more about their culture than I did about Aleut. So if most of this is about Yupik culture, just explaining that. Also, the people from Alaska, they have Russian influence, so that's also a little bit of an explanation of that. They have descendants that connected Siberia and Russia to Alaska, but that happened a really long time ago. This is some food that I know of. This is an agudik. It's traditional ice cream. This was made out of whale blubber, and that sounds so good. But obviously, since most people now aren't gonna make ice cream out of whale blubber, they adapted to using shortening such as Crisco and whipping that up with some frozen berries and sugar. This is more explanation on what I'm wearing. This is a kuspuk. It's a traditional native garment for Alaskan people. Before they had like sewing machines and all of this stuff and like patterns, they just made it by hand. And as you can see in the pictures, they can be made into different patterns. I have a little like flare on mine and the bottom picture doesn't. So you can make them into different like patterns and different looks. And that's pretty much more about this. A random fact underneath that is the fact that Alaskan natives, instead of wearing like raincoats and stuff, like before raincoats, they would make raincoats out of seal guts. Yeah. Well, yeah. They made raincoats out of seal guts, and that obviously kept the rain off their skin, and it had like an opaque look. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is introduce someone in Mukulshu who represents us well. He knows a lot about our history and culture. So Will, if you could come up. This is Will. He's the culture director at Mukulshu, and he's very passionate about educating people on Indigenous matters and people. So he's here to share some about what he does.
Right. Thank you, Maya. Atzlahel, Willard Bill Jr. Titsta, Mukulshu Abshed. My name is Willard Bill Jr. I'm an enrolled member of the Mukulshu Indian tribe, and I'm ancestrally Duwamish. And so I, along with the members of our group here, we live here on the Mukulshu Indian Reservation. And so I'm an old school teacher, so I'm gonna ask you some questions, even though I really can't see. Who can tell me what an Indian reservation is? Hand right here with the antlers. Exactly. So it's an area of land that was set aside for us to live on. But in the 1850s, the tribes in this area were going through a treaty-making process. Who can tell me what a treaty is? I'm testing your history teachers today, too. Yes, sir. Correct. The treaty was made between the tribes and the U.S. government. But what is a treaty? It is an agreement, right? Between two what? Somebody said it. Between two countries. That's the significance of it. So treaties can only be signed between two sovereign nations. And so at that time, the Mukulshu Nation signed those treaties with the United States government, guaranteeing us land, security, education, medical care. But at the time, they didn't set any land aside for us. They wanted us to go live with the Puyallups or with the Nisquallias. And they continued to deny that. So we actually had to go into warfare with the United States government, 1854, 1855, 1856. After that warfare, we actually secured what we now know as the Mukulshu Indian Reservation, where we all live on, okay? Did y'all know you live on an Indian reservation? Because technically the Adventist Academy is within the boundaries of the Mukulshu Indian Reservation. Even though this isn't federal Indian land, you're technically within the boundaries of our tribe. And so through that treaty-making process, it affirmed that we are a sovereign nation. What does that word mean, sovereign? Excellent, you're doing well. Independent to rule yourselves, right? So we have our own government. Does anybody know what kind of government the Mukulshu Indian tribe has? So we have what's called a tribal council, similar to like a city council. And so we have 9 members. And then each year, that's a rotating basis, and each year 3 positions are up for election, okay? So it's a rotating, every year there's 3 positions that come up. And they're the ones that govern and set the policy and the rules and the laws that we live with under on the Mukulshu Indian tribe. All right, you guys are doing good. This is a good test for you all. Okay? How long do you think our people lived here prior to the treaty-making process? Prior to us being known as Mukulshu? Somebody said it? 1,000 years. So 12,000 years is the correct answer, okay? So the carbon dating that we have back, the scientists have looked into, and oral histories that told us that we have lived in this area continuously for 12,000 years. So we call that since time immemorial. Since the beginning of time, this is where we came from. Our history and our teachings tell us that we did not come from anywhere else. This is where we have always been, okay? So that can be another class later on. We can talk more about that. All right. So in this area, so on this reservation, okay, we set our own rules, we set our own guidelines, okay, our policies that we live under. We also have some businesses that you don't see other places, like what do you see on the reservation that you don't see in other places? The casino, bingo hall. In July, there's a lot of fireworks. Okay? So why can Mukulshu have a casino, a bingo hall, sell fireworks, do all those things? We're just down the street, you can't do that. Because you can't sell fireworks right here at the Venice Academy. Well, you could, but just not the same kind, right? Why is that? Because we're a sovereign nation. Good, so you're catching on. All right, this is good. All right, I'll get off the history quiz here in just a sec. So as part of that, with those businesses, we provide for our people, okay? So how many of you seen our school down the street? Okay, and we have a medical and wellness center. Most of our money goes into healthcare and education and housing, okay? And I can't remember, I think we spend about $2.5 million every year in education and millions in healthcare, providing for our people, and in home ownership. Okay? So for example, I just live just down the street here, but my house isn't technically on federal Indian land, it's on what we call fee land, so I still pay property taxes. But I also have family property up the street heading east that if I build on there, then I won't have to pay property taxes on that. Does that make sense? Okay. So just some keys there. I just want to make sure this assembly, and we're going to come back and do some more work with your teachers and with you all is talking about. So you know what a reservation is, since you live on one. You know what sovereignty means. That's good, okay? And you know what those treaties are, because that's what ensures that we continue on in doing this work. One of the initiatives that we're really working hard on, though, is since we've created a solid financial base, is getting people reconnected back to their culture. And speaking our language, we have 2 language teachers here engaged in our culture, and we have Sarah here as one of our culture teachers for the tribe, so making our regalia, accessing those ancestral teachings, right? Okay, and learning that more fuller history. So as Maya said, her grandfather taught her, and it was absolutely correct. Our people traditionally lived in the entire range of the city of Seattle, Lake Washington, Lake Sammamish, all the way up to the Cascade Mountains, down to Puyallup, and out to what we call the Salish Sea, or what's often referred to as the Puget Sound. Hundreds and hundreds of miles that our people used to travel and live in traditionally. This is just where our kind of our home base is today. So you think about all that expansive range, what we gave up during that treaty making process to be here today and being your neighbors, okay? Any questions? I don't want to lecture you guys too much. Not a 1? You're going to take it easy. Could be about, well, most anything. No? Wow, it's an easy group. Okay, we'll come back to you. One of the other things, we talked about is accessing our language, accessing our culture. One of the things we're also doing is relearning what our ancestral food systems were like. So as Adventists, you have specific food practices, correct? All right, so raise your hand and tell me what some of them are. Antlers? And I'm sorry for the pointing, but I don't know anybody's name, so. Don't eat meat, okay? What else? Don't eat pork. Keep going. Oh, I'm sorry, thank you. Very little alcohol, right? Very little, if any, alcohol. What else don't you drink much of? Am I correct? Caffeine, right? Is that correct? Yes, no? Oh, okay. So there's the new Adventists over here. Okay. Okay. Yeah, this is the last time I get invited out. Okay. What else? Whole Foods, am I right? What else? Anything else different? But what's the end result of that? What's the end result of up here, Dad. I'm sorry. Yes. Yep. What is? Okay. But the end result of that is what? A healthier lifestyle. Y'all live longer than anybody in the country, right? Okay? Because I got kind of excited. I'm a history geek, so I started doing some research. Y'all live longer than anybody. That's fantastic. Good job. We live the shortest lifespan of anybody in this continent, okay? And that's because of those learned behaviors. The sugar, the caffeine, the carbs, the alcohol, the drugs, the cigarettes, right? All of those things were never part of our traditional and our ancestral diet. But in the last 170 years that we've learned these behaviors. And when we were forced upon this reservation, the only food that we really had was what the government would feed us, because we couldn't access our traditional food sources. So they gave us flour, sugar, and we had water from the streams. So I know you all made Indian tacos today, right? They're good, aren't they? Okay. You can't eat those every day, though, right? Because you end up looking like me. This is not that good for you, okay? It's technically a slave food, all right? Because it's a welfare food that we created because of what we had at hand, okay? In the early 1900s. That's where Indian tacos come from. And many different cultures have that same teaching, that welfare type food, that commodity food that we're there. So we're relearning what our ancestral foods are, okay? Who knows what some of our ancestral foods are? All right. Salmon. What else? Yep, in the back. You what? Say it one more time. Grains? Some. Not much of not really a staple, but some. Yes, over. Squash, good. Berries, lots of berries. Depending on what time of the year it is. Beans? Yep, beans. So you think about the three sisters when you're planting your gardens? Yes. Elk and deer, they're proteins. So fish was the primary protein source. Who can guess what the second one was? Deer? No. Corn? No. It was a protein source. It was an animal. No. Over here? Nuts? No. What was it? Grains? No. It's an animal. Oh, I'm sorry. Cattle? No cattle. Cattle were introduced to this area, right? Was not traditional or ancestral. So ducks were actually, right? So bird, fowl. Ducks used to be so plentiful in this valley here, you know, where Walmart, Supermall, and all that stuff is now. Well, all that used to be traditionally as a wetland. And the ducks used to be so plentiful here that we actually used to put up nets and you'd flush them out, and it was super easy hunting. Okay? And that doesn't exist anymore, though. Okay? But we're trying to relearn those things. So right now is hunting season for a lot of our hunters, hunting elk and deer. But ancestrally, there was food sources that we would access all year round. So I'm going to stop. I get excited, so I'll teach all day. But I'm going to ask Miss Elise Spilgerisch to come on up, one of our language teachers. Elise is also one of our experts and leaders in our food sovereignty movement and works with our traditional food, so I'm going to let her take over. Thanks.
Thank you. I'll do an introduction in our language. This is one of our cultural protocols. Elise Spilgerisch zieht da Buckelschuch absched, des Squaltschid ched at Buckelschuch utsid. So what I said is, my name is Elise Spilgerisch. I'm a Mukulshu tribal member and a Mukulshu language teacher. So traditionally, we can make our introductions really long, and that's how they were. We would say who our family members are. But in this case, since you all don't know my family, I'm gonna not say all that today. But like my uncle said, I have been working with traditional foods for the past 11 years. I grew up in Puyallup, and we didn't have very many other Native students in the public school system. So I was one of about two, me and my brother, and I didn't get an opportunity to learn as much culture as we are able to now here on our reservation. And that's one of the powerful things about education here, especially in this time that we're in today. At our tribal school, our students, all your ages, are learning about our traditional foods, hunting, fishing, gathering, all kinds of plants, berries, and then our other cultural skills like weaving, making baskets, along with the normal K through 12 education. So it's a really powerful time that we're in here today. And I'm really lucky to be part of this education happening here. So before I get into our foods and our language a little bit more, I would like to read a land acknowledgement. Who here has heard land acknowledgements? A few, yeah. Yeah, the past couple years, they're growing in popularity. Does anyone know what the purpose is behind them? Okay. So the purpose behind a land acknowledgement is pretty much a city or a school, whoever is hosting an assembly or a gathering, they acknowledge the traditional lands that they're on as guests, paying respect to that tribe or that indigenous population whose traditional lands that is. Hat slachel twagwalapu, Mukulshu abshchash. Good day to all of you. We are members of the Mukulshu Indian tribe. Otsutab chash ti Mukulshu utsid. Ok adirav chash al ti slachel. Al dishat chash ati Mukulshu ab swatufted. We are speaking the Mukulshu language. We are thankful to be here today. We are on the land of the Mukulshu people. Uflashlil ti Mukulshu ab al tudi tuhak. Didit chash, halit chashla walach, ok adiraf chash, twal yolab chash, ati swatufted. The Mukulshu people have always resided here. We are still here, alive and strong. We give thanks to our ancestors for this land. So that land acknowledgement is from our tribe, from our language program. And a big part of our culture is, giving thanks to our ancestors and our elders who paved the way for us to be here today in this time of prosperity. Because we haven't always had all the things we have today, like this incredible education system at our fingertips, the opportunity to go to any college that we want to, follow our passions, have health care, have food, have simple things like plumbing and electricity that we take for granted here today. And all of these things, these severe poverty conditions, happened right outside here, your campus, here on our reservation. So our people have come a long way, and we try to pay those respects to our people, the older ones who didn't always have all of these things. So, going into our language, we're taught that our language was given to us by the land. So I try to always make my classes, really try to make them fun at least, and relating to the land, and our traditional foods, and showing that access. So, has anyone heard the term Lashutseed? No? Okay, a few people, cool. So Lashutseed is kind of the big umbrella category of language from upper Skagit area all the way down to Nisqually. And we're considered Southern Lashutseed, and we're a dialect. Here at Mukulshu, our own specific way of saying things, Mukulshu, the Mukulshu language. So I'm just gonna read this quote real quick. Lashutseed is the language spoken by tribes living in around the Puget Sound region.
Its borders extend to Skagit Valley and Whidbey Island to the north, the east side of Kitsap Peninsula to the west, the drainage basin of South Puget Sound to the south, and the crest of the Cascade Mountains from Mount Rainier to Mount Baker in the north. And this quote's from the Puyallup Tribal Language website, but I think it does a really great job of illustrating just how much territory we covered. And we all spoke a common language. There was a few differences, but pretty much the same. All right, so southern versus northern. Northern Lushootseed is pretty much after Seattle up to that upper Skagit area. There's just some differences in saying things, going back to that word dialect. And so a dialect is just a regional variety of language distinguished by features of vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation from other regional varieties, and that constitutes them together as a single language. So each of our tribes has different ways of saying certain words, emphasizing different sounds, and many are the same, but there's a lot of differences too, and we try to, spread the word that they're all valid and important. There's no one way that's better than the other. So here is what our language looks like written out. Mukulshu. And so there's a lot of letters there, that are pretty unfamiliar to us when we grow up speaking English or another language, right? And as people kind of work with our language and kind of learn more of the history behind it, we hear this term, first language speakers. And this is describing our elders and ancestors who grew up speaking Lushootseed as their first language. They spoke that their first language, and then maybe eventually later on in life learned English or other dialects or another tribe's language. Sadly, we no longer have any first language speakers here with us, so we're trying to really strengthen our language community and create more speakers to keep our language going. And here in this picture is my great-great-grandmother, Annie Jack, and she was one of these first language speakers here on this reservation. Okay, another interesting fact. So you saw how we had that word Mukulshu language written out, Mukulshu. Prior to contact with Western civilization, we did not have a written language. Our language was considered an oral language. So it was passed down traditionally through songs, traditional storytelling, and just everyday life, really. Linguists began documenting our language in the early 1900s, conducting recordings, then writing those down, making transcripts. And then they utilized the International Phonetic Alphabet to write down those transcripts. And those are the letters we see today being used. All right, who has heard about boarding schools yet? Yes. Yeah, this year we've gotten a lot of publicity around this part of our history, and it's a hard thing to learn about for everyone involved, really. And so these schools are a big reason why our language is in the state that it's in today. For a while, it was just barely hanging on. And there's a lot of reasons why that is. These schools followed the motto, kill the Indian, save the man. And that's written in our Declaration of Independence. That's part of the United States history. These boarding schools began following that motto, and it was forbidden for our students, our kids, little ones, to speak our languages or display any other cultural semblance of who we were. All right, who has heard this term yet? Another quiz, intergenerational trauma. Yeah, good. Yeah, I'm glad to hear. So intergenerational trauma is what we're seeing here today. The effects of all those boarding schools, those breaks in our sacred circle. They hurt our people so much that we're still seeing the effects of that here today through alcoholism, drug abuse, all different kinds of behavior that was not part of our traditional values. So a lot of, hard things to deal with and a lot of healing work is taking place. So our children were forcibly removed from their families and placed in these schools, many did not survive, and the ones that did, they were denied any expression of their Native identity. They then kind of internalized that shame, not to be proud of who they are as Native or Indigenous people. And when they went on to have families of their own, many chose not to teach their children cultural knowledge or our languages in hopes that their children would have an easier, happier life. If children were caught speaking their languages, they would be physically punished in one form or another. My great-grandmother, Iola Bilobihan, was one of these students. She was in those residential schools most of her young adult life. And one of her punishments was being starved for speaking her language. And this was before she was even taught how to speak English. Because of the trauma she experienced, she didn't teach her children our language, Mukulshu Flutsid, and this effect rippled down to where we are today. So that was my great-grandma. She didn't speak the language to her children very rarely, so they didn't learn. So my grandfather wasn't able to teach his children, my mom, and she obviously couldn't teach me what she didn't know. So through this opportunity, working with the language program, I'm kind of able to heal this part in our family's story, reclaiming our language and kind of facilitating healing in our lives and then spreading that throughout our community as well. Oh, thank you. Thank you. So every time we speak our language, this is an act of resilience and an act of healing for our people. This repairs some of those effects of that intergenerational trauma we're seeing today. It helps increase levels of self-esteem, encourages a sense of cultural belonging, gives our people, that sense of being proud of themselves. That empowerment is really powerful for us. And just a fun fact, not very fun, I'm sorry. Just a very overlooked piece of history in relation to our language. This is the American Indian Religious Freedom Act, only passed in 1978, so not really that long ago. On and after August 11th, 1978, it shall be the policy of the United States to protect and preserve for American Indians their inherent right of freedom to believe, express, and exercise the traditional religions of the American Indian, Eskimo, Aleut, and Native Hawaiians, including but not limited to access to sites, use and possession of sacred objects, and the freedom to worship through ceremonials and traditional rites. So up until this point, 1978, not long ago, right? Anything regarding our religion or our ceremonies, speaking our languages, that was all considered illegal. We could be imprisoned very easily if we were caught doing that. And this directly ties to our traditional foods as well, because we have certain ceremonies around our foods. And so we were not able to share that knowledge with each other, with others. And that's why this was kind of one good step in the right direction, getting towards where we are today. So some important Mukulshu language workers, I'd just like to read their names: Johnson and Bertie Starr. So these are all different ages of people, but really contributed to where we are today and preserved our people of all ages. A few other important Lushootseed language workers outside of Mukulshoot, but pretty good, closely related. Vi Hilbert, an Upper Skagit elder, she taught classes at UW Seattle and worked with Tom Hess to create the Gold Dictionary that we use all the time. Tom Hess is a linguist, conducted recordings and helped put together that dictionary. Pat Fleming in the Auburn School District worked in Indian education, helped write another important book, the Yellow Book it's called, and a key person in bringing back the language to Chinook Elementary, just down the road. And then Zalmai Aswali Zahir spent time with his stepfather, Don Matheson, a Puyallup tribal member who was also a first language speaker. When he lived in Mukulshoot, he recorded a lot of Intergenerational language. So we're revitalizing Lushootseed here today. And in the past, we didn't have an official language program. That's kind of new in the 2000s, that term. But we had a lot of people doing that important Mukulshoot language work. We have Bertie Starr teaching at the Tribal College and the Virginia Cross Center. Eva Kayat King George taught at Chinook Elementary. Donna Starr teaching at Lemon Tree Lane, just, across the way. And then all of these people, they just all really helped pave the way for us to be here. Maybe when it wasn't always so fun and there wasn't a paycheck involved for doing this work. And so now we're trying to adapt to modern times. Here we are today, trying to increase that community engagement and trying to stay hip with it as much as possible. So we created a YouTube channel where we have about, I think, over 100 videos now, if anyone would ever like to check that out. They're, really viewer-friendly and easy to follow along. We also have an Instagram account. We don't have a, TikTok now? Kind of sad, but one day we'll get there. I think that's the real popular one. And then this year, I started language certificate programs for our adult community members, since there hasn't been very many classes for that level of learning. And this takes place at our Mukulshu Tribal College, also just down the road, helping provide a lot of great education opportunities for our people. And so we're just wrapping up the fall quarter right now, and I'm really happy to say this is going to be a running quarterly program from now on. And then a lot of our teachers, they're creating incredible resources, trying to engage, people of all ages, especially the littles, is kind of the hard one. And so what some of our people have written children's books. And this is one that I wrote called Nature Adventures with Lily. It's considered a bilingual children's book. And it's about me and my daughter going to the beach, like out at Dash Point. I don't know if anyone's been there, but we always go on nature adventures. So it's a really cute little book. And then I'll just read this quote to close it out. Gwaslu de flashutsidab chas, a qui hak, tolok qui hat chach, a tiir to ishad chas. May we continue speaking Lashutsid for a long time, as did our ancestors, with a good mind. And this is from Vi Hilbert, that Upper Skagit elder, a really influential person in the Lashutsid community, who's no longer here with us today. And the big emphasis on our language is really important because we're taught that without our language, we have no culture, we have nothing. So the fact that we're, fighting for our language, revitalizing it, creating more speakers, is a sign that our people are healing. And we're all moving in the right direction. So thank you for letting me crash your assembly today. Thank you. And just to close out, we've been asked to do a prayer in the language. So I will read the Mukulshu Flutseed, and Amaya will translate for you.
We are praisingly thankful for this day. We are praisingly thankful for this life. We are praisingly thankful for our lives. We are praisingly thankful for all things. Fix our minds and thoughts. Fix our bodies. Fix our souls. You make them one. And we will be well in this life. So be it. Amen.
Now I will hand it back to Kira. Not Kira, just kidding. Okay, thank you guys.
Okay. Hi guys, I'm just introducing the dancers and the drummers as they coming up to stage. Please be respectful as they do their music. Thank you.
awake? All right, real good. Okay. So we're just going to share a little snapshot of our culture today. There's lots of different forms of drumming and singing in Native societies. Have any of you ever seen a powwow before, or been to a powwow? Where they use the big drum, you'll see the headdresses, and that type of wear. More traditional to our people, more ancestral, is we use hand drums. And then our women dance. We do have some male dances as well. I don't know if we can get Robert out there today. But this is more ancestrally what the people of this area would have engaged in, okay? And I thank Elise and Maya for sharing that prayer as well, because ancestrally there are people very, very spiritually connected, okay? And so today, even just on this stage, there's about 6 different spiritual practices that we engage in, okay? And again, trying to access those ancestral teachings of our people and getting back to that. But all the people on this stage are members of the Mukulshu canoe family, and we welcome all different spiritual practices within that. There's not one that just overarches anything. So this first song we're going to sing is called Rosie's Song, and it's composed by one of our elders, and it talks about the strength and happiness of our people. The next song we're gonna do a couple more ladies, and the next one is called the Women's Honor Song. So about 20 years ago, when we were revitalizing this way of being in our ocean-going canoe society, a late chief, Frank Nelson from King Inlet, came down from what we call Canada today, and to work with us in helping revitalize this voice. And during that time, he gave us permission to sing the song, and it's in honor of all of our women. even though they're going to kill me for doing this. So we wanted to get a little crowd participation. You guys have been sitting for a really long time. So if I don't have any brave young people or any people that want to come up and dance, actually, Autumn will go on the floor down there. And so if any of you are feeling it, so we can work off your lunch, get your blood moving here. Don't be scared. You don't make her dance alone. Now, come on. There's one. Oh, good job, Antlers. There's another one. There we go. A couple of fellas there. There we go. And Robert, you might teach you about dance. There we go. All right. And so what we need is 2 lines. All right. Autumn will show you where to go. 2 parallel lines. It's a math test today as well. We'll see if you guys... It's like follow the leader. Oh, oh, hey. Oh, hey, hey. Oh, oh, hey. Oh, oh, hey. Oh, oh, all right, let's give them a round of applause. I want to hear you guys clap for it. Let's go. Thank you for being brave. Come up here. We're not done yet, though. Gentlemen, we're not done. Keep going. Oh, oh no, we're not done. Okay, stay up here, though. I just try to encourage you. You guys did really good. Thank you for being brave enough to come up. So that song's called The Princess Song. Comes from the West Shore Canoe family up in Lummi. So we just want to thank you all for doing this today. And again, as the pastor said, is the start of our relationship here and doing work together. We're hoping to come back. We got some beautiful posters and stuff that we're going to bring by for our healthy beverage curriculum. I hope you guys will enjoy. And we're going to do a food thing in December with you all. So, but one of our people had surgery, and then the other person had got the coronavirus 2 weeks ago. So we apologize we didn't help you out with that today, but we're going to come back here in a couple weeks and do some work with you. So we're going to end this song. It's called the Eagle Spirit Paddle Song. It comes from the Sacred Water Canoe family, and it's just our way of an honor song for all that you're doing. And now you know a little bit more about your neighbors out here. Let's see. Oh.
Is it on? Okay. There's one more thing we wanted to do before you guys leave, just as a small token of our appreciation. We have some gifts. If I could just pick it up. It's kind of heavy, so. From the biggest and best.
Awesome.
And there's more, so.
Yeah, these ones are for all of us.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for coming. Everybody enjoyed it. So. So, thank you guys for coming. Thank you everybody for listening. You're all dismissed.